as we wind down with Will Clark, letting us reminisce with him. It's such a pleasure to have him join us right now. Hearts like mine broke when you left the Giants, and we don't even need to get into the hows or whys. We get it, but you went on to do some pretty cool things, even with the St. Louis Cardinals, who we just talked about. But you retired unlike so many. You were still so productive, and I've always wondered, in the end, when you decided you'd had enough, you weren't the guy going up batting the $187. You were still contributing. What was it that told you it was time to shut it down?
We had a son. We talked about Trey before, and he was autistic, and we were seeing a lot of improvement with him, and especially during the off season before when I was home. And, my wife and I had talked about it. And I said, it's getting to be about that time. The traveling was getting a little tougher, and then being away from home and not seeing him every day was getting a little tough. And, I had kind of made up my mind, but I also still was not going to tell anybody that. I was going to go out there and do my job. And, I was starting to swing that pretty good with Baltimore, and then I got traded over to St. Louis, and then just kind of like being back in '89, I just got locked in, and I stayed locked in for 3 months. And at the end of the season, we had made it to the playoffs, and we were one game away from the World Series, and we wound up losing to the Mets. But I looked back on it, and I was like, St. Louis wanted me to come back, and they wanted me to either be a utility guy or an outfielder. And I told them, I said, that's the old dog, new tricks thing, and I said, that ain't going to fly. And so then I looked at free agency real quick, and it was Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. And back then, both of those teams were horrendous.
Yep.
So, it was kind of writing was on the wall. And so I decided to hang them up. And when I did, I wanted to go out on top. And that's kind of basically what happened. I was able to, still be at the top of the sport. I had hit, what was it, 350 for the last 3 months of the season?
Yep.
I was still really on top of the sport, but it was also, time to be daddy and husband and be home for my son. And, looking back on it, I have absolutely no qualms about what I did, when I did it, all that sort of stuff. The one thing that you do miss, and you do miss this just because of the competition, you miss, hitting a baseball. I mean, that's what I did my whole life, competitively, and to just kind of walk away from it's a little tough. But at the same time, as you guys well saw, I can still sneak in the garage and take a few hacks.
Will Clark joining us. Ain't that the truth? And, August 11th is my birthday, and I've had a few more since the ones I had watching you. But I got to tell you, probably the greatest gift I've ever received, and it wasn't even meant for me on my birthday, was this last August 11th when the Giants announced they were going to retire your number. It's the last time I cried, Will. It's the last time I was so emotional, and I guarantee you people are listening right now, and they felt the same way, and I saw you on the field, and I saw how proud and happy you were with your arms raised. I hope you're a humble dude, but you also know reality. You've shown that again in this interview. You understand the world and what's going on. You realize that it's going to be the biggest ovation in Giants history when they announce that, right? It is. I promise you it will. It's got to be special for you.
It is so special for me. It's unbelievable. I've told several people, and if you listen to some of the interviews, I've told people this is my Hall of Fame, and I mean that sincerely. Myself personally, I am so proud of not only myself but also my teammates. The guys that I came every day to work with, and who stood behind me and helped me out and helped me grow as a player. The Mike Krukos and the Dwayne Kuipers of the world, and I couldn't have done what I did without having them and their support. So for me personally, it's going to be an extremely proud moment. without a doubt. I'm hoping that we get a chance to do it this year. If we don't, we'll just do it next year. But for the Giants to step up and to retire my jersey like that, it is probably the biggest honor that I've ever had in my life.
One more for Will Clark, and then I'll end on a personal note. We are all, with this quarantine, used to Zoom meetings and doing things online, but even before this all happened, you were part of a pretty special Zoom meeting I read about. The new manager, Gabe Kapler, just gushed about your recall, joining their Zoom meeting with the other coaches, handling the room, your ability to break things down. And it begs the question. Now, you've illustrated, and as a father, I couldn't get it more. There are reasons bigger than baseball why you walked off the stage. But I'm asking you on behalf of a lot of people, are we ever going to see Will Clark run a team?
Oh, man, that's an interesting question right there. I'm not going to rule it out, but also at the same time, like we've talked about before, I'm pretty much a realist. And, the game has definitely changed. The players are different. You got to treat them different. Some of the things that Al Rosen and Roger Craig did to me, or, some of my teammates did to me, there would be absolutely no way on God's green earth I could do that to some of these players, because they physically or mentally could not handle it. And, me running a team, I don't know, because, like I said, I'm not one of those kind of guys who's gonna, pat you on the back all the time. I'm gonna do it quite a bit. Don't get me wrong, but then there's going to be some times where I'm going to jump your ass and I'm going to be all over you, and you better be ready to take it.
I want to make sure I comprehended that answer correctly, because I certainly don't want to put words in your mouth. But am I correct in thinking, listen, you're a throwback. You've always been a throwback, and I think that's why so many are in love with you. And today's day and age, no disrespect, but it sounds to me like you only know how to be one Will Clark, and there are some players today that would rather call their agents and complain than handle the way you might handle them. I feel like baseball needs that badly, but am I on the right track that you're not going to change for the times that have to change for you?
You're kind of correct. I can't put it any better other than to say, I'm not the guy who's going to pat you on the back when you got 3 losing seasons in a row. Mm-hmm. You get 3 losing seasons in a row. That is not acceptable with Will Clark. And I am going to let you know in more than one way. And I will make sure that my feelings are known and it is unequivocally understood.
Last thing for you, Will, and this is a personal note. I've been doing radio for about 20 years now. I used to call into the radio shows when I was a teenager and just kind of worked my way up. And now when I first started watching you, I was 11 years old, which is the exact age my little boy is. He's 11. He's in Little League. My daughter's 12. And I'm sitting on my back porch right now, finished with this beer. And I'm smoking a Marlboro Ultralight, which is a habit I got to kick. But there's a point. When I was my son's age, I sat down and I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter to you because I thought I saw you chewing tobacco, and it's so funny now. And I asked why, and I asked if you knew that was bad for you. And there's a famous photo, you'll probably remember, that was on all the postcards of you with the smile and the bat on your shoulder and looking into the camera. And you wrote me back, hand wrote me back, not a handler. You wrote me back an entire postcard's worth of an explanation that I don't remember you ever denying the chewing tobacco, but I remember you talking about bubblegum and how great bubblegum was and how bubblegum helped you concentrate. And you wrote so much that you had to include a piece of lined paper because you kept writing, and I ended up getting a 2.5 page. Now, my mom and dad are in their mid-70s, and they will not let me, until they pass from this earth, God forbid, many years from now, they will not let me take this booklet that they have put it in because they're afraid, even though I'm in my 40s, I'll screw it up. People wonder why so many grew up in love with you and obsessed with you and how you played. But at the time, even though you were, I think in your second year, Will, you had this, I felt like, and maybe this is just a little boy talking, you had this knowledge that you had so many kids out there like me watching your every move, and I felt like you were aware of that weight and that it was so important for you to never let anyone at the ballpark or out of the ballpark down. Now, just lie to me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I'm right on that part.
I'm not gonna deny that at all. Because it is kind of a big part of who I am. But, also at the same time, and, just as for you and the audience right now, I never, ever, never, chewed or dipped in my life. That was one of the, initiations, when I was in high school for freshmen, was they had to go through that. And, I told all the seniors ahead of me, I said, I'll do whatever you guys want me to do. I said, but I ain't doing that right there, because people were turning green and gagging and puking. I was like, I'm not doing that. And, I never did. I never dipped or chewed one day my entire life. So, just because I pounded about 8 bags of sunflower seeds in my face, or bubble gum, that was the extent of my, where I went from there. So,
where would you write the postcards? Just on the road, hotel room? I was wondering.
You know what? It's pretty interesting. You even brought that up, because till this day, I still get a ton of fan mail. When I was playing, I was averaging probably 120,000 pieces of fan mail a year.
Jeez.
And now the Giants send me quite a bit. They send me, I don't know, maybe a box or 2 every month.
Wow.
And, so I mean, you're talking about, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 150, 200 autographs, every few weeks.
Never gets old, does it?
You know what? I look at it this way, and I've said this to a ton of people, is, I could not have done what I did out on the field without having the support of fans in the stands. And, if those fans want an autograph or whatever, I'm going to oblige them. Now, I'm not going to sign. If you mail me, 15 cards,
right,
you ain't getting 15 cards back,
right.
But if you mail me a card here and a card there, I'll sign them, no problem. And then it's the same thing, when I'm up in the suites and, I'm visiting people up there for the Giants, not only shaking hands, but also, signing autographs and passing along, Giants legacy.
Well, you've been so generous with your time on this Sunday afternoon, and we'll play excerpts of this and put it online for everyone listening. I guess my last thing for you is for everybody out there like me who made their moms go out and get the eye black, for everybody like me who was a right-hander, who was pissed off at the world that he couldn't be a lefty, for everyone like me that saved up for the Will Clark jersey. My son is the same age, and it hit me before we talked, that I was the first time I ever wrote you a letter. He's in Little League. We talked about you being a manager, and I promise my son is not going to grow up to be one of those kids that calls his agent. Any words of wisdom, kids in Little League, kids his age, what would you tell him if he was standing in front of you as far as getting better and playing ball?
The one thing about playing baseball is it's extremely tough to do, and I tell people that till this day. It's the hardest thing to do in sports is hit a round ball with a round bat, hit it square. And, the one thing that I try to point out, especially to younger kids, is have fun, have a good time. And, even though I was intense, don't get me wrong, and even though I wanted to win every day of my life, that doesn't mean that I was not having a good time. I was having a ball out there. And, the fans in Candlestick, I think that they pretty much picked up on that. And, it was fun coming to the ballpark every day. It was fun, being out on the field and seeing everybody in the stand. And, for a guy like me and looking back on my career and seeing, where the Giants were in the mid '80s and where they went to, as soon as myself and Robbie Thompson came on board, that was pretty freaking special right there.
Yes, it was, and we'll never forget the home runs. I wish they'd bring back playing the 20th Century Fox theme every single time there was a big home run or you guys won a ball game. So many wonderful memories. Hum Baby, Giants Vision, and I said the last time I cried was August 11th when they announced they're retiring your number. The first time I think I ever cried in baseball was a fluke running with Andres Galarraga your rookie year at first base because I knew that it cost my guy the Rookie of the Year award. You certainly would have won that. I believe it was Todd Horrell that won it. But man, I'll tell you, not everybody gets a chance to say this, Will. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a gamer, for carrying yourself the way you've always carried yourself. It's impossible for you to probably understand how much it means to a guy like me and so many people listening, but you have so much love and affection out there from fans like us, and I really appreciate you taking a few minutes of your time this afternoon.
No, it is my pleasure. It's the least we could do, especially, in the climate that we're in right now. And, for like myself, the game is going to continue. All right. It always has, the strike came along, matter of fact, there was numerous strikes. And when baseball came back, it was bigger and better than ever. And, it's going to continue that way. We just got to get by this situation, as a country. And make sure that we're even bigger and better than we were before.
Well, I hope someday I get to meet you and shake your hand and look you in the eye and thank you in person. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And when things do kick back in gear, I will be coming to see the Sacramento team. So maybe then.
I promise. You just let me know. You got my number. Not that you need it, and we'll definitely have you front and center. And you're just gonna have to put up with a standing ovation when they introduce you. That's the only thing you got to pay. Thanks, Will. Appreciate your time.
No problem at all. My pleasure. You have a great day, and for everybody out in the audience, y'all stay safe and vigilant. And baseball will be back soon.